Jayanilo Premadana Karuna Prachur Hina Prabhu Kota Gela Acharya Thakur Kahamara Swarup Rupa Kaha Sanatan Kahadasa Raghunatha Patita Bhavam Gamora Bhata Yoga Kakavira Eka Kale Kota Gela Gauranatara Pashane Kutibo Mata Anale Pashibo Gauranga Gunira Nidhi Kota Gile Pabu Se Saba Sanghira Sanghe Je Koilo Vila Se Sangana Paya Kande Narotamoda Jayanilo Premadana Karuna Prachur Hina Prabhu Kota Gela Acharya Thakur Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. He who brought the treasure of divine love and who was filled with compassion and mercy, where has such a personality as Srinivasacharya gone? Where are my Sub Damodar and Rupa Goswami? Where is Sanatan? Where is Raghunath Das, the savior of the fallen? Where are my Raghunath Bhatta and Gopal Bhatta? Where is Krishnadas Kaviraj? Where did Amoga Leela go? Where did Lord Gauranga, the great dancer, suddenly go? I will smash my head against a rock and enter into fire. Where will I find Lord Gauranga, the reservoir of all wonderful qualities? Being unable to obtain the association of Lord Gauranga, accompanied by all of these devotees in whose association he performed his pastimes, Narottam Das simply weeps. Hare Krishna. So, let's read a little bit about Bhakeshwara Pandit. Oops, this just came out of there. Here we go. Where was it? It's interesting. Had it, but let's bring it up here. Okay. There's a few things to listen for in this short biography, or to appreciate, and to. One, of course, is Bhakeshwara Pandit's unbelievable absorption in chanting and dancing. How pleasing that was and is to Lord Chaitanya. His mercy upon an offender against the devotees of the Lord, and how because of that mercy and kindness, Lord Chaitanya also forgave this personality. So here it is. Sri Bhakeshwara Pandit was present with Srimad Mahaprabhu during his pastimes in Navadvip, and after his acceptance of sannyas, he also accompanied him to, where did Lord Chaitanya go? Okay, you got to do your homework. Okay. During the time of the Lord's residence in Puri, he continued to live with him there as well. Sri Bhakeshwara Pandit took birth in the village of Guptipada near Triveni. He was an especially proficient dancer in Kirtaniya and could dance continuously for 72 hours. Don't you wish you had video clips back then, or cell phones? Someone could have been in Kirtan and caught that, how he was dancing in section. I'll have to wait till we can enter those pastimes. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began his pastimes of congregational chanting of the holy name of Sri Hari in Navadvip, Sri Bhakeshwara Pandit was an important singer and dancer in that assembly. It was by his mercy that Devananda Pandit was delivered from the wrath of Mahaprabhu. He was also present during the Lord's journey to Ramakeli. Devananda Pandit was at one time known as the foremost lecturer of the Bhagavat. One day, Srivas Pandit went to hear his discourse, and being moved in ecstatic love by hearing the Bhagavatam, he began to cry. Just like if Mukunda here just started crying when we started the Bhagavatam class. Okay, so he's over there crying, the Bhagavatam class is going on. A few of the ignorant students of Devananda Pandit, thinking that this was creating a disturbance, removed Srivas Pandit from the assembly and left him outside. Though this was done in front of Devananda, he didn't restrain his students from this act of disregard to the devotee Bhagavat. And it says, there's two types of Bhagavats. There's the book Bhagavat and the devotee Bhagavat, and one who offends the devotee Bhagavat, there's no mercy for such a person. In fact, you can't understand the book Bhagavat without the mercy of the person, the devotee Bhagavat. So, Therefore, Mahaprabhu, neglected Devananda and didn't bestow his mercy on him. One evening, Bhakeshwara Pandit came to perform dancing and chanting of the holy name at the house of one devotee from Kulia across the bank of the Ganga from Nadia. Receiving this auspicious news, Devananda proceeded there, and upon seeing the appearance of the symptoms of divine love in the person of Sri Bhakeshwara Pandit, he became charmed. Gradually, a great crowd gathered at that place, and Devananda Pandit, taking a cane in his hand, kept the crowd in order so as not to obstruct the ecstatic dancing of Sri Bhakeshwara Pandit. In this way, Bhakeshwara Pandit performed chanting and dancing for 2 praharas, that's equal to 6 hours, on into the night. When he finished dancing and sat down, Devananda came and offered dandavats at the lotus feet of Sri Bhakeshwara Pandit, who became pleased with this service and blessed Devananda with the words, Krishna Bhakti Hok, may you attain devotion to Sri Lord Krishna. From that day, devotion was awakened. Wouldn't that be so easy if some great devotee just said, may you attain, and then you just started? Because that's what just happened here. It says here, from that day, devotion was awakened in the heart of Devananda by the mercy of Bhakeshwara Pandit. Thereafter, when Mahaprabhu came to Nadia to have darshan of his mother and the mother Ganges, he bestowed his mercy on Devananda at Kulia. Quote, because you have served Bhakeshwara, I have noticed you. Bhakeshwara is fully imbued with the Lord's transcendental energy, and whoever becomes devoted to him attains to the lotus feet of Sri Krishna. His heart is the personal abode of Sri Krishna, and as Sri Krishna dances, so Bhakeshwara also dances. Wherever one can get the association of Bhakeshwara, that place is the sum total of all holy places and as good as Sri Vaikuṇṭha. Sri Bhakeshwara Pandit's disciple was Gopal Guru Goswami, and Gopal Guru Goswami's disciple was Sri Janchandana Goswami. In his Janchandra Padati, Janchandra Goswami has written, that person who was previously very expert in the arts of singing and dancing, the Gopi Tunga Bidya, is presently renowned in the world as Bhakeshwara Pandit. He has appeared on the 5th day on the dark fortnight of the month of Asar, Ashada, June, July, Vaman Mase. So in other words, in Krishna Lila, he's Tunga Vidya. And he closed his pastimes in this world on the 6th day of the bright fortnight in the month of Asar. While Bhakeshwara Pandit danced, Mahaprabhu himself would sing, and Bhakeshwara would catch hold of his lotus feet, saying, O moon-faced one, give me 10,000 Gandharvas and let them sing while I dance. Then I will be happy. Mahaprabhu answered, you are one of my wings. If I had another like you, I could fly in the sky. Okay. His worshipable deity is Sri Sri Radhakanta, whom he worshipped in Kashi Mishra's house in Puri, which was also the residence of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Gambhira. These deities are still being worshipped there to this day. So, has anyone had darshan of them? Anyone here been to the Gambhira? Maybe you saw the deities, yeah. Okay. Any questions about Bhakeshwara Pandit?
Hare Krishna. How long ago was this story?
This is Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, a little over 500 years ago.
500, yeah, okay. Yeah, I studied for this today, and so, okay,
well, we're going
good.
into this now.
Yes, but yeah, I understand now. This wasn't today. This is 500 years old.
Ever fresh. Okay, let's see what we can do today. This is very interesting. This is a mystery here. We have the 6th canto Bhagavatam with an upside-down cover on it, and we're in the 5th canto. It's called Stump the Teacher. There we go. Let's see what we have on this. Hey Govinda, hey Gopal. Should be. Well, no, it's right here. It's right here. This is it. And it's, there we go. Let me just increase the font size, make it age appropriate. Very good. Text 22, correct? Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Kim dushkararna kratubhistapavratāḥ Dhanadibhirva jujayena palguna Nayatra Nārāyaṇa pada pankaja Smriti parmushtatischa yendriyotsavat Kim dushkararna kratubhistapavratāḥ Dhanadibhirva jujayena palguna Nayatra Nārāyaṇa pada pankaja Smritri parmushtatishta yena driyotsavat Kim dushkararna kratubhistapavratāḥ Dhanadibhirva jujayena palguna Nayatra Nārāyaṇa pada pankaja Smritri pramushtatishta yena driyotsavat. Would like to chant? Word for word. Kim, what is the value? Dushkarai, very difficult to perform. Naha, our. Kratubihi, with performances of sacrifice. Tapaha, with austerities. Vratahi, vows. Dana adivihi, with executing charitable activities and so on. Va, or Jujayana, with achieving the heavenly kingdom. Phalguna, which is insignificant. Na, no, yatra, where, Nārāyaṇa pada pankajā, of the lotus feet of Lord Nārayan. Smritihi, the remembrance. Pramushta, lost. Atishaya, excessive. Indriya utsavat, due to material sense gratification. Isn't utsav, I mean festival? Like a festival for the senses. Woohoo! That ended last night. Okay, for all these folks. Translation. The demigods continue after performing the very difficult task of executing Vedic ritualistic sacrifices, undergoing austerities, observing vows, and giving charity. We have achieved this position as inhabitants of the heavenly planets. But what is the value of this achievement? Here we are certainly very engaged in material sense gratification, and therefore we can hardly remember the lotus feet of Lord Nārayaṇa. Indeed, because of our excessive sense gratification, we have almost forgotten his lotus feet. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The land of Bhārata-varṣa is so exalted that by taking birth there, one can not only attain the heavenly planets, but also go directly back home, back to Godhead. As Krishna says in the Bhagavad-gita 9th chapter, 25th verse, yānti deva-vratā devān pitṛ-n yānti pitṛ-vratāḥ. Bhūtāni yānti bhūtejyā yānti mad-yājino. Those who worship the demigods will take birth among the demigods, and those who worship ghosts and spirits will take birth among such beings. Those who worship ancestors go to the ancestors, and those who worship me will live with me. Unquote. People in the land of Bhārata-varṣa generally follow the Vedic principles and consequently perform great sacrifices by which they can be elevated to the heavenly planets. However, what is the use of such great attainments? As stated in Bhagavad-gita 9:21, Kshine punye marcha lokam vashanti. After the results of one's sacrifices, charity, and other pious activities expire, one must return to the lower planetary systems and again feel the pangs of birth and death. However, one who becomes Krishna conscious can go back to Krishna, yānti mad-yājino. Therefore, the demigods even regret having been elevated to the higher planetary systems. The denizens of the heavenly planets regret that they could not take full advantage of being born in the land of Bhārata-varṣa. Instead, they become captivated by a higher standard of sense gratification, and therefore they forgot the lotus feet of Lord Nārayaṇa at the time of death. The conclusion is that one who has taken birth in the land of Bhārata-varṣa must follow the instructions given personally by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, yad gatvā na nivartante tad dhāma paramaṁ. That's 15.6. One should try to return home back to Godhead, to the Vaikuṇṭha planets, or to the topmost Vaikuṇṭha planet, Goloka Vṛndāvana, to live eternally in full blissful knowledge in the company of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Om Agyanti Marandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshurunmilitam Nena Taismai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Dina Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kiramayam Dadati Svabadandikam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhakti-vṛnda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Banchika Padrubhashya Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Bhavane Bho Vaishnave Bho Namo Namaha. So with the blessings and wishes of the assembled devotees, I'll try to say something pertinent. I hadn't said anything yet. You may not thank me at the end of class. Okay. So what I want to highlight, first things, is in the Bhagavad-gita, there's two verses which kind of describe the personality speaking of this verse. In the second chapter of the Gita, text 42 and 43. Yamimam pushpitam vacham prabhadanti avipashtitaha deva-vratā parta nanyad astiti vadinaha. Kamatmana swargapara janma karma palapradam kriya vishesha bahulam bhogaishvarya gatim prati. Men of small knowledge are very much attached to the flowery words of the Vedas, which recommend various fruitive activities for elevation to heavenly planets, resultant good birth, power, and so forth. Being desirous of sense gratification, opulent life, they say there is nothing more than this. And then the verse we want to concentrate on is the next one. Bhogaishvaya prasaktanam taya pitṛ-vratāḥ vyāvisatmika buddhi samadao na vidiyate. This is what they realize they got themselves into. In the minds of those who are too attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence, and who are bewildered by such things, the resolute determination for devotional service to the Supreme Lord does not take place. So this is the big... and one has to be very, very intelligent, just like it says here, men of small knowledge in the previous verse. Where is that in Sanskrit? Apashtita. Yeah. Avipashtitaha. Men with a poor fund of knowledge. Poor fund. Not much there. Just like you have different kinds of investment funds, this portfolio, that. So there's not much in your fund. There's not much there. So a poor fund of knowledge means there's just not much there. Not much knowledge. Alpametasa, meager, poor fund of knowledge. So you're not so bright. As the Maharaj used to say, the offering's a few preps short. That's another expression, right? Like that. So, because they missed the point, they missed this very, very special point that the real value in life is Krishna consciousness, and it's dangerous because it's described here, Bhogaishvarya prasaktanam taya pitṛ-vratāḥ. This, one's mind becomes completely bewildered when there's material opulence. And if one's not Krishna conscious, one's not very Krishna conscious, there's always the chance, there's a good chance, a very good chance, one's intelligence will be bewildered, and the resolute determination to become Krishna conscious, samadao na vidiyate, it just doesn't happen. And that's what they're saying in this verse. We have so much sense gratification here in the heavenly planets, we just can't think about Krishna. And you can imagine there's so many descriptions, even in the Bhagavatam, of the heavenly existence. You have a hard time getting out of bed in the morning, and just you're in a used sleeping bag and a mat on the floor. You can imagine if you were in a palace, beautiful, either handsome, your spouse is a very handsome man, or your heavenly demigoddess is a wife. The beds are like in Dwarka, they're like... Yes. That's pretty good. Can you imagine trying to get from Mangalarpatik out of a bed like that? Forget it. It's like, maybe I'll make it to the noon Artik, or something like that. And it goes on and on and on and on, and one becomes accustomed, and it's like a poison. One loses one's desire and even ability to practice spiritual life. There's a balance. That's why Bhārata-varṣa is glorified. There's a balance of happiness and distress, because if we're in too much distress, we can't engage in spiritual life, and there's too much happiness, we can't engage in spiritual life. So I imagine there's prayers of people in hell saying the same thing. It's just too difficult here. We have no, even in this world, if someone's too hungry, too poor, too this, too that, diseased, it's very, very difficult. And sometimes in distress, one spends all their time blaming God for all their problems. They think, why would I worship someone who's made me suffer like this? They even go that far. So here's a situation where there's so much enjoyment that they can't even become Krishna conscious. And therefore they're lamenting their position. They've made it all the way to heaven, and it's not an easy thing. It's described here. Following all those, because you have to follow for many lifetimes. It's not just, you come to the temple and throw a few rupees in the hundi and you're going to go to heaven. It's not like that at all. One has to perform all these different austerities and charity and so on and so on. And then finally, Just like, what is it, Indra, 100 Ashvamedha sacrifices, and he got upset because Prithu Maharaj was starting to perform some, and the Ashvamedha sacrifice is not an easy thing to do. So this lament that, I've wasted my life. And you don't have to go to the heavenly planets to feel that way. We live our whole life, and then all of a sudden, I made a mistake. And I made a mistake, and I don't know what I'm going to do. Sometimes that happens because one gets carried away. The Krishna says in the Bhagavad-gita, he gives an analogy of something being carried away. Something's carried away by the wind. You know what it is? We're close to the ocean here. There's a few clues here. Yeah, something gets carried away by the wind. Yeah, but the boat, like a boat, carried away by the wind. Like that. Because when that wind hits the sails, unless you know what you're doing, you just get carried away. Just goes. Just goes. And you're powerless. Especially if you don't know how to sail, you're powerless. Of course, if you're in a situation like that, just let go of everything. That's a take-home for you today, as a previous sailor. Just let go. Let go of all the ropes and like that. But still, we don't know what to do. And we're helpless. So the demigods here are saying they're helpless. They're actually helpless. We can hardly remember the lotus feet of Nārayaṇa, and because of our excessive sense gratification, we have almost forgotten his lotus feet. It's just a little remembrance there. And the determination, as it says in Bhagavad-gita, the bhyavisatmaka buddhir, it's just not there. It just can't get it anywhere. And we see that happen. Someone's not careful and they fall away from spiritual life, and they just don't have it. Hey, Prabhu, where you been? Why don't you come to the morning program? Why don't you come take prasadam? Why don't you do this? And they'd like to. I'd really like to, but I just can't. So that's a situation we don't want to find ourselves in, because it's going to take quite a while to come back around. And I was listening to some lectures recently, Prabhupada was saying millions of lifetimes. Millions of lifetimes. That's quite a while. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, what I wanted to read this, and this is his lamentation, a life wasted and not being, especially when you know. It's one thing if you don't know, but if you know and you blow it, that's pretty painful. So let me just read the translations because of the time. Prabhupada would sing this song quite often. It's one of Prabhupada's favorite songs. It's Anadi Karame Pale, the reactions of beginningless karma. So it's just 4 verses. 4 verses. Due to my past fruit of activities, I have fallen into this great ocean of nescience, and I do not find any means of getting out. Day and night my heart burns from the poison of these worldly activities, and so my mind is not at all satisfied. I am always making hundreds and thousands of plans to become happy, but all of these plans give me pain 24 hours a day. Indeed, I am being dashed again and again by the waves of ocean of materialism. In addition, there are many thieves and rogues, of whom 6 are prominent: lust, anger, greed, envy, illusion, and madness. They are causing me great fear, and in this way my life is coming to an end. And here's the last verse. Excuse me. There's 2 more. This is 3. The 2 thugs. You know what a thug is? That word actually comes from Hindi, isn't it? Thug. Yeah. Like that. The 2 thugs of mental speculation and fruit of activity have cheated me and misled me, and finally thrown me into the ocean of misery. Under the circumstances, my dear Krishna, O ocean of mercy, you are my only friend. I have no strength to get out of this ocean of nescience, so I pray to your lotus feet that you'll be kind, and by your strength lift me out of this ocean of suffering. Kindly lift up this fallen servant of yours and fix me as one of the particles of dust at your lotus feet. Please give this Bhaktivinoda shelter at your lotus feet. I am your eternal servant, but somehow or other I have forgot you, and now I have fallen into this entangling network of Maya. Kindly save me. So at least hoping that at least we have the presence of mind to pray for some mercy, like that. So, and the next song, I'll read that. It's a few verses, but it's the same talking about his life, and at the very end of life, how he's realized he's wasted it. So he says, "O Lord, having forgotten you and come into this material world, I've experienced a host of sins and sorrows. Now I approach your lotus feet and submit my tale of woe." Everyone's got a tale of woe, right? Like that. So, while I was bound up tightly in the... Actually, this is everyone's tale of woe. It's universal. It's not just exclusive to his life, but this is all of our lives. So, while I was bound up tightly in the unbearable confines of my mother's womb, O Lord, you once revealed yourself before me. After appearing briefly, you abandoned this poor servant of yours. At that moment, I thought, after my birth this time, I will surely worship you with undivided attention. But alas, after taking birth, I fell into the entangling network of worldly illusions. Thus I possessed not even a drop of true knowledge. As a dear son fondled in the laps of attentive relatives, I passed my time smiling and laughing. The affection of my father and mother helped me to forget you still more. Misdirected affection. And I began to think that the material world was a very nice place. Coochie-coochie-coo, right? Little kid like that. Day by day, I gradually grew into a young boy and began playing with other boys. Soon my powers of understanding emerged. So I diligently studied my school lessons every day. Proud of my accomplished education, I later traveled, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur was very well educated, and he traveled all over. He was sent to so many different places. Proud of my accomplished education, I later traveled from place to place and earned much wealth. Thereby maintaining my family with undivided attention, I forgot you, O Lord Hari. Now, in old age, this Bhaktivinoda very sadly weeps as death approaches. I failed to worship you, O Lord, and instead pass my days in vain. What will be my fate now? So, the demigods are explaining that universal lamentation, that what happens when one makes a mistake, and that mistake adversely affects or seems to even destroy or covers one's Krishna consciousness. And there's no greater, just like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked Ramananda Roy, what's the greatest misery? You know this? What's the greatest misery in the material world, in life? Yeah, separation from devotees. So to just not have that transcendental association, there's no greater unhappiness. You know, the materialist thinks the greatest unhappiness is to be in the association of devotees. People who just aren't interested in sense gratification, right? There's nothing here like that. So it's the greatest misery is that one realizes that, and time's up. You know, you don't have a certain amount of time. Just like when you take a test, right? There's a timer. Teacher says you got, you know, there's the clock. I want you all to finish your test by 9 o'clock. You got 1/2 hour to answer all the questions. And all of a sudden it's, 3 minutes to 9. And Manibandhan is like freaking out because he's only done 3 of 25 questions. And he's flipping, because he just was like, I only got 3 minutes and it's almost up. What's going to happen? If I don't pass this test, a lot of problems. It's a big exam or something like that. So, and why am I in this predicament? Whose fault is it? It's my own fault. It's my own fault. Oh, okay. I wasn't singling you out, okay? So it's our own fault, And this predicament is there, we have the story of Lord Indra, talking about the demigods. He's the king of heaven in the Govardhan Leela. I mean, he was so absorbed in his enjoyment as the king of heaven, he completely forgot the position of the residents of Vrindavan and Krishna. It was a complete whitewash. complete whitewash, fell into illusion. Krishna is showing how powerful is Maya. He tried to kill the residents of Vrindavan, like that, because of this talkative boy Krishna, right? Or you have the pastimes of Nalakuvara and Manigriva Nalakuvara. You know, they're just having a good time. And even Narada Muni comes by and they have no respect whatsoever, no decorum or respect, and they landed up as... And these are situations where at least these persons were blessed. You know, they actually, somehow or other, Krishna, great mercy upon them, they were part of his pastimes, but just to show how bewildering the material entity is that one can fall. And, you know, and they were sons of Kuvera, a very respectable person. How embarrassing to the family that they did that. And it's not just a sense enjoyment, but even learning. One can become bewildered and very, very proud of one's learning, just like the husbands of the wives in Vrindavan. You know, they say the wives of the Brahmins, but you know, after they surrendered everything and ran to Krishna and brought all the food and everything like that, and they came back, and those Brahmins realized their folly, but because of their material attachment, they didn't surrender to Krishna. Also, they were afraid of Kamsa. But there's the famous verses in the Krishna book: "The hell with our Vedic learning, the hell with all our knowledge and study. We couldn't realize that here's Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We couldn't do it." That's it? The hell with. Okay, there you go. The hell with. Like that. And they were lamenting so much that their so-called knowledge and learning blinded them from surrendering to Krishna. So we have to be very, very careful, because if we go too far in one direction, it's a long and hard road back, and it may take a long, long, long time. It's interesting. I was listening to a lecture yesterday, and this person was asking in the audience to ask Prabhupada that it must have been a devotee or something. He said, "Well, if we're all going back," because Madhavis was translating, was repeating it to Prabhupada, and he said, "Well, if we're all going back to Godhead eventually, why should we, be in a hurry? Can't we just kind of enjoy and just go with the flow, and eventually we'll all go back to Godhead?" Prabhupada said, yes, that's a fact, but he said, he gave the example, just like if you're walking, and I come by in a car, and I say, "Why don't you come in, I'll give you a ride." And you go, no. Prabhupada said, "You could be walking for days. Why not take the ride?" Yes, it's true, we'll all get back to Godhead, but it's a question of how much we want to suffer, and like that. Why prolong the agony? Like that. So, but I'll end with a graphic story about what happens when someone goes a little too far and then there's no turning back. It's very, very unfortunate. Okay? And try to imagine what you would be thinking if you were in this situation. There's a true story happened a few years ago. Many of you may have heard the story. But in Yosemite a few years ago, there's a very nice place. If you've been to Yosemite, there's two falls in a row. One's Vernal Falls and the other one. In the springtime, the water's flowing very nicely. All the tourists come and so on. Very, very beautiful. Very, very powerful, And, above the falls, there's an area where it's kind of opened up a little bit. It's not like a gorge or anything like that. But there are signs there, even graphic signs with the drawings of people like calling for help as they're being pulled out in the current. And it just says, you have to be very careful, because you wade into that water, it seems like everything's fine. But if you wade a little too far, that water just pulls you. And what happened a few years ago, some young people about your ages, in their 20s and so on, decided to take a picture. So one backed into the water to get a picture, and he backed a little too far, and the water started pulling him. So his friend decided, I will go save my friend. And he started getting pulled, and they started moving towards the falls, and a third person tried to save them, and all three of them went over the falls. And this is not like 5 feet. This is like, you can imagine that all the way down, crashing into the rocks. Very big fall. And one of the bodies wasn't found for quite some time. So, but just imagine but just imagine what they were chanting or what they were feeling when you realize that you can't come back. There's no saving, and you can hear the roaring of those falls is immense, you know, and that's it. What would be going through your mind, you know? And you don't have a lot of time to think about it either. You got like a minute or two, and then that's it. The great sorrow and you know, what did I do? I was just trying to get a picture, and now it's over. Like that. So the demigods are lamenting like that. We worked so hard this night, we've gone to heaven, and now we are in a very difficult situation. We can't even think of Krishna. So, you know, what happened? What did we do? You know, it's not the misery of suffering like going over a waterfall, but they're seeing it as a great misery. We can't even think of Krishna. I mean, they have the clarity of mind to understand that. I mean, many demigods don't. That's it. They've checked out of spiritual life for a long, long time. Like that. So, anyway, it's a take home from the verse that I was thinking. These verses by Bhaktivinoda Thakur and so on. So one has to be very, very, very careful. And that's why we have austerity, penances, you know, different things like that, because sense gratification has an effect. It decreases one's ability to be Krishna conscious. It just does. One has to be very, very careful. Very, very careful. So it's 8:39. I'm in trouble. No? So we can take the microphone. I'm sure everyone has all kinds of stories about how they blew it. And now they're happy they're Krishna conscious once again. So
I just have one similar to what you would mention. This some of you might know Tara Das. His friend was in someplace in Europe, and he was with his girlfriend, and she was taking a picture, and there was a cliff behind, and she said, "Can you just back up just a little bit more?" He backed up, back up a little bit more, just back up a little, went down the cliff, finished.
Was that intentional on her part?
No, I don't think it was intentional on her part. It may have been. I don't know. Sometimes that happens.
No. She went over the cliff, not Tara.
She's taking the picture.
Wow.
She's taking the picture. He's there getting the picture taken of him.
Is he gone?
Oh yeah, he left his body.
Wow.
Yeah. But I sold him a Bhagavad-gita though, before that happened. Before he went to Europe, he was in Miami. I sold him a Bhagavad-gita. So that was very fortunate. Material world.
Very, very dangerous.
Don't you have a story, Vijay, of someone like shouting out Rama or something? Oh, yeah, that's another.
Amazing one. This devotees were swimming in this area, and there was a waterfall also, and this one boy who wasn't a devotee, but he liked the devotees, so he was going up there and having a good time, and he's swimming, and he got caught in the falls, and one of the devotees there was named Ram, and this non-devotee said, Ram, save me! Ram, save me! So Ram was near the edge there. He's trying to. He couldn't catch him. So he went over the edge. He left his body, saying, "Ram, save me!" And what happens? Interesting. Before he went swimming, he gave $60 to some devotee to hold for him. He's going to take a dip in the water there. And the devotee gave the $60 to me and said, Vijay, use this in distributing Prabhupada's books. And he told me the whole story. So I was distributing books to people in the name of, I don't know what his name was, but he was very fortunate to leave his body saying, Ram, save me.
Taken with the end of this verse, I'm not going to memorize this whole verse because it's the demigod speaking, but the last phrase, Nārāyaṇa pada pankajā Smriti pramushta atishaya indriyotsavat. This is something we can remember, that your remembrance of Krishna's lotus feet will be destroyed by trying to enjoy the festival of sense gratification too much. In other words, it's a warning. They're feeling we're helpless here because everywhere we look, it's all sense gratification. But what we've lost is our remembrance. They have the presence of mind to think that, but they can't. They're in an environment where they can't do anything about it. So this is a warning for the devotees. Don't think you can indulge and also be Krishna conscious. Krishna will take away your memory of him. He won't let you remember him. And that's the worst fate you can have. That's going over the falls.
Anything else? There's also the quality devotees, Kalarta. They don't waste any time because they realize time's moving very, very quick, and we don't have a lot of time. So, well, I'm not done yet. I'm talking a little bit. I'll open up for more questions. So that's what the point is here, is we don't have a lot of time, so devotees are very conscientious about the amount of, using the time for Krishna. And also sense gratification is there, but Prabhupada says like salt. Not too much, not too little, just, so, but when it becomes too much, then we got a problem. So are there any Zoom questions?
Just one comment. Prabhupada said, Prasadam should be very nice, because that's our only sense gratification.
Yes.
To the cooks.
Because, sometimes devotees become a little austere. We had one devotee here many years ago. He was only eating like 3 or 4 chickpeas in public. Then we'd catch him in the walk-in just like eating like a ton of cold prasadam because, it was like artificial. Come on. He'd be in there with this, big plate of prasadam, hiding in the walk-in, It's like, come on, just sit down and take prasadam with the devotees. So. Yes, question?
Yes, question from Zoom.
Yes, that must be his last
yes,
name.
Dharmasetu Prabhu, Dandavat Pranams. My question is it that it is accurate to say that in the process of Bhakti Yoga, even in the neophyte stages, material sense gratification is completely absent?
No. You want some commentary on that? You asked me yes or no.
Of course, Prabhu,
okay, because you said neophyte. The neophyte stage means that there's a mix. We're not pure devotees, and there's a neophyte means we're going back and forth between our devotional service and our trying to enjoy this material world. As one becomes more and more advanced and purified, one material world becomes naturally distasteful, and Krishna consciousness becomes hyper-ecstatic. So there's just no, even though there may be facility for sense gratification, one has no attraction whatsoever. That's advanced. But neophyte means we understand there are going to be the pullings of the modes of material nature and desires to enjoy. So that's why we should always stay in the association of devotees, because then we're protected. We're protected from those pullings. Like that. Hey, where are you going, Prabhu? Right? If there's no one around, there's no one to say, hey, where are you going, Prabhu? It's like Bharat Maharaj. Hey, why are you going after that little doe, that little deer? And there's no one to stop and say, come on, Maharaj, please. I don't think you should get that absorbed in this little deer. There's no one to say, I think you're in Maya, Maharaj. There's no one to tell him that. And he just went off. So that's what it means, neophyte. We're going back and forth. So keeping the association of devotees and... yes, there's shelter there and protection.
It will make us stronger.
Yes, it'll protect us.
Yes. Thank you very much.
The last thing we need to do is think we don't need any help. We're mercy. You know what a mercy case is? You ever hear the expression mercy case? They're like in such dire straits. Someone's got to. Mercy means a person, practically speaking, doesn't even deserve it. But you are very, very kind, and you extend yourself to help them. So we're all mercy cases, which means none of us deserve the kindness of the Vaishnavas, but we get it because Without it, there's no hope. So we're all mercy cases, so we should stay in the association of devotees who and get their mercy and help and kindness. Is that it, or were you going to say something?
I have one quick comment. Sorry. Yesterday I was at Bobo Park and I met this very old man, and he was telling me, I hate God. I don't know why he put me in this situation. I was trying to explain to him, but he wouldn't listen. He said, I blame God for everything. It was really something.
Does he blame God for all the good things in the world? Just the bad stuff. So who's bringing the good stuff? God only brings the bad stuff. That's interesting, isn't it? So we can end here. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.